Netflix was smart to fund season 3 of Black Mirror. Joe Rogan's stand-up, not so much. Because unlike beer frat comedy of the lowest order, we need a Twilight Zone / Star Trek sort of pop philosophy sci-fi anthology series, now more than ever. But not everybody will be into this show, in part because it's indirect with its larger ideas. It sometimes comes off as cynical, overly pessimistic even. Whenever a show, game, or film enters territory like this without expressly charting out how it expects the audience to think and feel, it opens up the potential to be misunderstood or simply disliked. Some maintain this show is intrinsically anti-technology, which couldn't miss the point any harder if it tried. And even if the entire show could be summed up into a single moral, why would we want to? Any work of art that can be boiled down into a terse sentence or two probably was never actually art to begin with. Besides, it isn't the technology causing the problems. In Black Mirror, the high-tech gizmos simply facilitate the darkness already existent within the social structure. It facilitates that darkness to terrifying new heights, just as it facilitates the positives of human existence in equal measure. The key is not to lose sight of both perspectives, phone battery half dead and half charged. The uniquely modern danger lies in how seductive, secretive, cruel, and repressive a world built by digital technology could be, surpassing the older ones built on, say, petroleum, cotton, or other kinds of old-school imperialism. If the first industrial revolution colonized things like land and labor, the third industrial revolution colonizes the invisible realm of thoughts and minds. If technology is a drug, Black Mirror is the fold-out list of possible side effects most people just throw away unread. The show is basically Are You Afraid of the Dark for grown-ups. But the monsters and goblins of Black Mirror are 10 times scarier than traditional creature features, precisely because they're invisible yet omnipresent. What could be scarier than that? But it's even more twisted. As Season 3 shows, not to mention the entire series, we're not just blind to the existence of threats beneath the surface in this brave new world, we're also their source. We create them through our wants, as well as through our technicians and sweatshops. This is why I strongly disagree with the notion that Black Mirror is somehow anti-technology. It's modern human beings, not the technology we create, that Black Mirror seeks to decontextualize, criticize, and uncover. True, the title Black Mirror brings to mind a black computer screen, but what better kind of modern mirror, what better semblance of our own reflection could we ask for than that? Let's look at episode 1 of season 3, Nosedive. In this possible future, social media has created an entire society out of its core systems, values, and language. A pseudo-utopia which, like all utopias, becomes dystopian the minute we penetrate its surface. That possible future beneath appearances in Nosedive plays out how you'd probably expect.
You're still at Hadeker? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going pretty great. Good to hear. So what brings you back here? New job, first day. First day? At Blankman Harper. Whoa, top floor. That's... Well, good luck. I know, right?
Likability, conformity, complacency, and most of all, repressiveness become the chief values. And in turn, they breed selfishness, vanity, shallow vapidity, and alienation. Nosedive, if not the entire series, sets out to deconstruct the very idea of progress. The idea that with every technological or scientific advancement, the human being itself is somehow improved or freed from its base instincts and inner nature. That's the sort of dream that people in Nosedive have been sold.
Whoa! Sampled your photo stream to make her. Great hair.
The world can be beautified, that dream claims, as a dog whistle for purified. We can live in a new reality where people are nice, where every day is like a movie full of beautiful products, people, and activities. Of course, the flip side to this idea, its perverse Black Mirror image, is this.
Great today.
Thank you.
Door won't open. I'm on 2-4.
Sorry, Chess. I'm late.
I just need some stars, please.
Those who are unworthy or unfit to live inside this new tightly knit surface world can, by the very same technology, be excluded from it altogether. Erased even. The episode centers on one character in particular, Lacey Pound. Much how Winston Smith's name, the protagonist of George Orwell's 1984, conveyed a kind of split between conformity and individuality, so too does the name Lacey Pound convey simultaneous softness and hardness. Lacey, as in the fabric of lace, conveys surface-level softness and beauty, But her last name, Pound, is not only violent, it's active. I mean, there's only so much lace you can wrap up a pounding fist in to conceal its essential violence, its activity. But at the episode's beginning, Lacey is trying her best to be more lacy than poundy. Also in that beginning, the hive mind conformity of her world is only hinted at in the uniformity of houses along this street, or in the crank to 11 politeness palpably present in her interactions.
I saw your boy in the fire hat just now. So cute.
Yeah, he's really something.
From the get-go, even the tiniest bits of small talk have a desperation to them. Kind of like how hostages talk in the presence of their captors. The dark side to the new world she's living in first crops up directly when, at the office, one of Lacey's co-workers falls into ill repute with the rest of the staff. We see how effectively and uniformly shunning and social repression can now take place, once mediated so thoroughly by technology. Moreover, we also see how tightly knit it creates conformist, vindictive, petty followers where once stood human beings. And of course, we see how totally it's all packaged under the veneer of progress, of futuristic tech and wan smiles. As the episode rolls on, we see the full picture of the awful state of things. Nosedive society is a police state maintained, operated, and enforced not by brute force, but by social graces and mores.
We drill down into the numbers. You have got a solid popularity arc here. Strong overall trajectory. Let's just look at the last 24 hours.
Policed from the inside and predicated on user-generated systems of pseudo-objectivity. But of course, politeness is not simply the outward appearance of politeness. Those of us out there who engage in small talk or social niceties out of pure obligation or peer pressure, rather than from an independent desire to be polite or a mutual expression of good humor and openness, they're not really being polite at all. They're simply using the mask of politeness to hide contempt, apathy, self-interest, or worse, for their fellow human. But in Lacey's world, and I think this is key, all possibility for authentic politeness is eliminated. Only fakers are possible in this contemptible state of things. Because there, every act of politeness or lack thereof comes with a very heavy and very real price. Not just the approbation of your peers, try the obliteration of your dreams. All of life is reduced to a pseudo-popularity contest, which is another way of saying that we all become commodities. Selling oneself takes on all too literal dimensions, and in the process, the concept opens up new and horrific vistas.
Wow.
As Lacey runs into a series of unfortunate events while traveling to a top-tier friend's wedding in her desperate bid to jumpstart her own approval rating, ergo her life, we quickly see how surface level and deceitful the pseudo-world ends up being. Except for this guy. This guy is really into it.
Please, remove yourself from the airport immediately.
Once Lacey hitches a ride with a trucker, a woman with an appallingly low approval rating, but who jumps out of the screen as more human in touch and vibrant than anyone we meet in the entire hour, the already borderline overkill message of this episode is driven home even more obviously. It's because of this scene in particular that I'd rate the opening episode as probably my least favorite of the season if that wasn't so hilariously contrary to the entire episode's message. So instead of saying that, I'll say it just could have been more effective for me in what it had to say by being more subtle. Because this scene kind of makes so obvious what was already abundantly clear for anyone paying attention. The only authentic, autonomous human beings in this scenario are the ones who do their own thing and don't give a shit about the ratings. It's only when we use social media and related platforms to hide rather than illuminate ourselves that we run into these kinds of issues. It's only once social media becomes an apparatus in the job market, a cog in the machine of capital, that we run into these horrible possible futures. What we do for money and who we are as people will never collapse into a single category. They might coincide, usually in fact that's necessary for a fulfilling career path, but even then the person is good at what they do by virtue of who they are. It will never, and I mean never, be a case of a person becoming good at who they are because of what they do. But that's precisely the twisted logic that the society in Nosedive has taken to heart. Where does this bizarre surface world, this world built on lies and technology, leave people like Lacey? People with unshakable aggressivity, nonconformity, and bitterness in their hearts? Questions of the moral dimension to these kinds of people notwithstanding, it seems they will be the ones most brutally dehumanized by such a shift. Because they will be the ones who do not have a right to exist any longer, as if such a right is there for a government or social structure to give or take away in the first place. They are the ones this new world would eat from the inside out. And crucially, as we see with Lacey, not even this level of social engineering erases their true desires, personality, or selves entirely.
I don't give a shit about your world.
It merely represses them and represses them until they've been marginalized entirely and expunged from public view. There's some good stuff in this episode, but overall, I don't see Nosedive as being super strong as an episode of Black Mirror or just in general. Fortunately, it was the only episode for the entire season that didn't really work for me. I won't have time to discuss every episode here, just the 4 that stood out the most for me. It isn't to say the other 2 were bad by any means. Even Nosedive, like I said, felt like a well-constructed mini-movie. And the 2 I'm skipping, Playtest and Shut Up and Dance, were both great fun, if not also pretty disturbing in parts. But once I got to episode 4 of season 3, San Junipero, I was at the edge of my seat for the entire hour and I didn't come down from that high even as the credits rolled.